What's up, guys? It's Cassie and Sara, and today we're talking about Dee Dee Blanchard, a mother who destroyed her daughter.
So if you like watching murder mysteries, make sure you hit that subscribe button and keep on watching. GYPSY Rose Blanchard lived with her mother Dee Dee Blanchard in their home in Springfield, Missouri. GYPSY Rose was a baby when Dee Dee claimed her daughter had sleep apnea. When GYPSY was 8 years old, Dee Dee described her as suffering from leukemia and muscular dystrophy and said she required a wheelchair and a feeding tube. The list of medical problems that Dee Dee related about her daughter would go on to include seizures, asthma, and hearing/visual impairments. Due to Dee Dee's actions, GYPSY was prescribed a variety of medications and had to sleep using a breathing machine. She also went through multiple surgeries, including procedures on her eyes and removal of her salivary glands. When GYPSY's teeth rotted, perhaps due to her medications, missing salivary glands, or neglect, they were pulled out. Yet the truth was that GYPSY could walk, didn't need a feeding tube, or did not have cancer. Her head was bald only because her mother shaved off her hair. Experts believe Dee Dee had a mental illness known as MUNCHAUSEN syndrome by proxy, also called a fictitious disorder imposed on another, which made her fabricate her daughter's ill health in order to receive attention and sympathy for taking care of a sick child. Medical tests often showed inconclusive or contradictory results regarding GYPSY's diagnosis, but Dee Dee would stop seeing any doctors who questioned her daughter's ailments. Many caregivers went along with what Dee Dee wanted. She had some nurses training so she could accurately describe symptoms, and she sometimes gave GYPSY medication to mimic certain conditions. Dee Dee was also charming and seemed devoted to her daughter. When GYPSY was old enough to talk, Dee Dee instructed her not to volunteer information during their appointments. She was always the one relating GYPSY's fake medical history. Dee Dee told GYPSY's father, Rob Blanchard, that their daughter had a chromosomal disorder that had led to her many health issues. He complimented her for her devoted care. When some of Dee Dee's family noticed that GYPSY didn't seem to need a wheelchair and asked questions, Dee Dee and GYPSY moved away.
Dee Dee Blanchard. Crazy lady.
She got the Munchausen.
She's crazy. Munchausen?
Munchausen.
We learned about it.
Yeah, I know.
College.
I never know how to pronounce it.
Yeah. But basically she made up
everything.
Literally everything, which blows my mind. Like, this wasn't that long ago. You know, like what, like 2005 era-ish, something like that?
Yeah.
The fact that she could get away with pretending that her daughter had cancer and all these other medical things, and she was perfectly fine.
Like, I would be so upset, like, my teeth rotting away, so then
you actually don't have teeth, but, like, you're perfectly fine, but you just don't have them because your mother
gave you all these medications and neglected them.
That's literally nuts to me. But the only reason she did it was so that she could get, like, attention, like, oh, you're such a great mother, you take care of your child. And,
like, reap the benefit.
Yeah, which they, like, we'll probably talk about some more.
Yeah.
They got, like, a lot of stuff from, like, charity and all this stuff, so it just blows my mind, though, that, like, no medical professionals were like, hey, there's something wrong here.
Like,
let me call the police or something.
Yeah, like, there's nothing wrong with GYPSY. There's something wrong with you, Dee Dee.
Yeah.
Dee Dee claimed to be a victim of Hurricane Katrina, so she and GYPSY received assistance to relocate from Louisiana to Missouri in 2005. There, she continued to bring GYPSY to doctor's appointments. Hurricane Katrina also provided an excuse for missing medical files. In 2008, GYPSY and Dee Dee were moved into a new home in Springfield, Missouri. Built by Habitat for Humanity, GYPSY and Dee Dee also received benefits that included charity-sponsored visits to concerts and Disney World. All along, Dee Dee continued to bask in the attention she received for being a devoted caretaker. When GYPSY was 14, she saw a neurologist in Missouri who came to believe she was a victim of Munchausen syndrome by proxy. However, this doctor never reported her case to authorities. In later interviews, he stated his belief that there wasn't enough evidence to act. In 2009, an anonymous report was made to authorities stating that Dee Dee's account of GYPSY's ailments had no medical basis. This resulted in 2 caseworkers visiting their home, but Dee Dee convinced them there was nothing wrong. As GYPSY grew older, Dee Dee began to lie about her age, going so far as to alter the dates on GYPSY's birth certificate to make her daughter seem younger. But GYPSY was still becoming harder for Dee Dee to control. In 2011, GYPSY tried to run away from her mother by running away with a man she'd met at a science fiction convention. But Dee Dee soon tracked them down via mutual friends. She convinced the man that GYPSY was a minor, though she was actually 19 at the time. According to GYPSY, Dee Dee smashed her computer and physically restrained her to the bed after they returned home. Gypsy has also stated her mother would sometimes hit her and deny her food.
Gypsy what? Started obviously to get older and be like, my mom is psycho. She's making all this stuff up. And tried to run away, and her mom caught her. And like would tie her down
to the bed and deny her food and hit her. But also, when we talked about a doctor, he was like, something's wrong, but then he's like, there's not enough evidence, so I'm not going to report
it. Okay. But then caseworkers did eventually go to the house, but she sweet-talked them, basically. I just can't. It reminds me a lot of, who did we talk to that was very good at, like...
Ted Bundy?
Yeah.
Gypsy eventually managed to get back online. She joined a Christian dating site where she met Nicholas Gojan. She told him the truth about her mother's actions and ended up asking him to kill Dee Dee so they could be together. Gojan returned to Springfield in June 2015, arriving while Gypsy and her mother were away at a doctor's appointment. After they had returned home and Dee Dee had gone to sleep, he went to the Blanchard house. Gypsy allowed him in and allegedly gave him duct tape, gloves, and a knife with the understanding that he would use it to murder Dee Dee. Gypsy hid in the bathroom and covered her ears so that she would not have to hear her mother screaming. Gojan then stabbed Dee Dee 17 times in her back while she was sleeping. The two had sex in Gypsy's room and took $4,000 in cash that Dee Dee had been keeping in the house, mostly from her ex-husband's child support checks. They fled to a motel outside Springfield where they stayed for a few days while planning their next move. During that time, they were seen on security cameras at several local stores. Gypsy said at that point she believed the two had managed to get away with their crime. They mailed the murder weapon back to Gojan's home in Wisconsin to avoid being caught with it, then took a bus there. Several witnesses saw the pair on their way to the Greyhound station and noted that Gypsy wore a blonde wig and walked unassisted. When Gypsy and Gojan returned to his home in Wisconsin, she had twice posted to the Facebook account she shared with her mother, once writing, "That bitch is dead." She later explained she made the post because she wanted her mother's body to be discovered.
So he snuck in and was like, sure, I'll stab your mother to death. So he did, and then they robbed the mother and left.
They had sex first and then robbed the mother. But I was also reading, this could be totally wrong, maybe I read a context, but I think it said he wanted to have sex with the mom too or whatever.
Well, that's what, like, as you were reading, I was like, which two did? Dee Dee and him?
I think he wanted to, but I don't think he did.
Yeah.
I think this is the first time they met.
I guess. They just went for it, dang.
After seeing a concerning Facebook status posted from Dee Dee's account, the Blanchards' friends suspected something was not right. When phone calls went unanswered, several of them went to the house. While they knew that the two often left on medical trips unannounced, they saw that Dee Dee's Nissan Cube, modified to hold Gypsy's wheelchair, was still in the driveway, making that explanation unlikely. Protective film on the windows made it hard to see inside in the low light. No one answered the door, so they called 911. When the police arrived, they had to wait for a search warrant to be issued before they could enter, but they allowed one of the neighbors present to climb through a window, where he saw that the inside of the house was largely undisturbed and that all of Gypsy's wheelchairs were still present. When the warrant was issued, police entered the house and soon found Dee Dee's body. A GoFundMe account was set up to pay for her funeral expenses and possibly Gypsy's. All who knew the Blanchards feared the worst. Even if Gypsy had not been harmed, they believed she would be helpless without her wheelchair, medications, and support equipment like the oxygen tanks and feeding tube. Wood Mancy, who was among those gathered on the Blanchards' lawn, told police she knew about Gypsy and her secret online boyfriend. She showed them printouts she had saved, which included his name. Based on the information, police asked Facebook to trace the IP address from which the post to Dee Dee's account had been made. It turned out to be in Wisconsin. The next day, police agencies in Waukesha County raided the Gojans' Big Bend home. Both he and Gypsy surrendered and were taken into custody on charges of murder and felony armed criminal action. The news that Gypsy was safe was greeted with relief back in Springfield, where she and Gojan were soon extradited and held on $1 million bond. But in announcing the news, Greene County Sheriff Jim Arnott warned things are not always what they appear. The media in Springfield soon reported the truth of the Blanchards' lives, that Gypsy had never been sick and had always been able to walk, but her mother had made her pretend otherwise, using physical abuse to control her. Arnott urged people not to donate any money to the family until investigators learned the extent of the fraud.
They got caught in kind of like a dumb way. Like,
Yeah.
So GYPSY had posted on the account she shared with her mom. It's like, oh, she's dead. And then people were like, what? So, okay. And then as you're reading this, I was like, the police let a neighbor climb through the window.
Yeah.
They didn't have a warrant. Is that like allowed?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
But I guess they were just like really, because
but like
they knew, you know.
Oh, because like GYPSY has like all this like ailment stuff.
Yeah, so they were probably
like, oh, maybe she's like needs help now.
Yeah, because you know the town is like, oh my gosh, GYPSY, she's got some.
Because they think that she has all this medical stuff. Yeah. Okay. Like I get that she was like really desperate to get away from her mom in the situation, but like
resorting to murder.
Don't know that that was the best idea, but at the same time, like if her mom is changing her birth certificate to say that she's younger and all this stuff, like how is she ever gonna get away from her?
Never.
You know what I mean? Like she's already lived like, what, 19 years?
In 2015, GYPSY accepted the plea bargain agreement and was sentenced to 10 years in prison. In February 2019, Gojan was sentenced to life in prison for the murder conviction, the only possible option since prosecutors had declined to seek the death penalty. Gojan asked Judge David Jones for leniency on the armed criminal action charge, which carries a minimum sentence of only 3 years, saying that he had fallen blindly in love with GYPSY. He received a sentence of 25 years on that charge, which is concurrent with the life sentence.
GYPSY can get out, Gojan can't, which I feel like kind of sucks for him.
Yeah.
Because like he fell in love with GYPSY
yeah.
and then thought he was like probably protecting her or whatever, and now he's gonna be in prison for life and she gets out in 10.
Yeah, she's got like what, a couple more years.
Yeah, like just
4 years left.
And she's out.
But she's happy. Yeah. I know I read that she feels more free.
Even though she's in prison. I can imagine.
They said that she gained like 14 pounds in prison because she was so malnourished.
That's crazy. It's sad that like when you go to prison, that's where you feel like safe or like happy. You know what I mean? Like it's not supposed to be a place where you feel like that. But for her, being home with her mother was more of a prison. That was the story of Dee Dee Blanchard and her daughter, GYPSY Rose Blanchard. I'm sure that you guys have heard it. Obviously, it was like a huge deal back in 2015. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe on this video.
Turn on those post notifications so you get notified every time we post a video.
Make sure you follow our social media down below in the description. We will see you guys next Friday. Peace!
Wait. I don't cuss my legs.